Welcome back into the Cowboys Report. Happy Monday to everyone except Nico Harrison. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes on today's show. This is our final live show that's planned, at least, until the NFL draft kicks off in a couple of days on Thursday. We'll be live for every single day of the draft. No surprise, we've got a lot of draft topics to discuss on today's show. The pinned poll on this one: is Tetairoa McMillan on the board at number 12? I think there is a chance. I don't like the reporting this morning from Adam Schefter. If you want T-Mac at 12, obviously. Not everyone does, that's fine. Especially in this draft. This draft more than ever is like, choose your flavor of ice cream. And I finished up the big board last night. I have never had a tougher time figuring out who the hell my fifth best player is in this class than this one. Had no idea. Like, top four, for me, pretty clearly, I think you can argue the order for some if you want. Hunter, Abdul-Carter, Jeanty, Mason Graham. I don't know after that. Like the guy at like 5 and 12 is like non-existent. Like, there's just no difference. And neither guy would be 5 in like any of the past several drafts I've done. So it's just not the top end value you're accustomed to. Like, it's just not the same. So is in the board at 12. Y for yes, N for no. Not if you take him, but you think he's there at pick 12. The suddenly emerging new team is Jacksonville as a threat at number 5. I don't think the Raiders are that big of a threat. I don't think the Jets are. Carolina's been pretty heavily looking at defensive players, but they could be a threat. Saints at 9, which I feel like the Saints and Carolina are just going to go defense there. I think there is a chance that one receiver is off the board and it's 5 and no one else goes between 5 and 12, or no receivers are off the board until pick 12. It is a unique draft class. I'm not saying bad, it's just a unique one, which has pros and cons, and I think there's a real chance Schefter does not go top 12, which would be a bad thing for you because that means one less guy gets pushed down. Is the board at 12. Y for yes, N for no. Get those votes in for me in the comments section of today's show, and vote at the pin poll. We were at 69%, which was super nice, by the way. Before we get into that, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else in between with the Game Time app. Get the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Again, terms apply, but download the Game Time app today, create your account, and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Today's show also made possible by Prize Picks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take a pick of more or less. Shot to up to 2,000 times your cash today. Keep an eye on Prize Picks, specialty items I'll call them, like Taco Tuesday, where several projections are on the board, usually by 15 or 25%. Go download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, now realistic names here, because I would love Travis Hunter. I've tried to leak the clearly not real bong photos. Hasn't worked yet. Realistically, who do you want to draft in round 1? Let me know in the comments of today's video. Who would you like to see the Cowboys take in this year's NFL draft? Again, it's very much the old scouting adages, flavors of ice cream. Right? People like vanilla, people like chocolate, people like mint chocolate chip. I don't really get it. That's not kind of my thing in the end. But that's the point. You might, especially like at various spots, like edge, for example, somebody's edge 2 is going to be somebody's edge 5, and that's going to be a 20-plus spot difference. So you have a lot of variation there. I see Golden, Jeanty. Unless you trade up, I don't think you're going to get Ashton Jeanty. I don't think they're going to trade up for a back anyway. I don't think that's good use of assets with where this team is at, as good as Jeanty is. I think Jeanty, I I don't really buy the Jags stuff at 5. I feel like they're trying to get a team to jump up so they can trade down and still get the guy that they want, which maybe is a T-Mac. Could still be Mason Graham if they want to slide down a few spots. But I think that's a little bit unlikely. I think Bears or Raiders, maybe Jags, but I think one of those 3 teams end up with Jeanty there. Golden, T-Mac, cap space. Steven, you're back again. T-Mac, Jenkins, McMillan. Toxic Tom's trolling too hard. He's got Isaiah Bond in there right now too. I did the big board. I did not put him on the board. I don't know how I can right now. Somebody's having something really bad done to them, but you can't rank that guy right now. It's not Tet trade down. T-Mac, the Scrolls show up to tell Chicago, give them your next 5 first-round picks. I think the Scrolls is a Bears fan. Is my the vibe I get on that one. The Super Chat menu on today's show, $5 you can get in on the Micah decision pool, which is still ongoing. You pick the date of when Micah Parsons signs, or I guess gets traded. Closest one wins the 50-50 split the pot. Jordan is already out of it. He had April 13th as a trade. Didn't happen. So, they're already kind of like valuing yourself there in terms of who's more likely. $10. The rules are you send me a $10 super chat. I will text your baby name submissions to my wife. LaShonda's I think was the last one. It was for a boy was her response. She didn't understand. $10, and I will also read her response on air. $20 for the Bean Boozled. They are stale. They are all gross. It's not fun. $50 beer bong and the most hundreds in the month of April. Get the DeMarvion Overshown jersey. Right now, a Raiders fan is leading that battle right now, but that's going to run through the NFL draft, so possibility to still come out on top on that one. How excited this year are you for the NFL draft? I always enjoy this time of the year. It's fun. It's long days, but I just get to sit around and talk football and maybe drink a little bit and not eat food. That's always an issue for me. I never eat. So Saturday I don't eat. I just go. How excited are you? 1 to 10 is the scale. A lot of 10s in there. Ecuador man is spot on here. The draft is my Christmas. People want to celebrate Christmas in July. It's Christmas at the end of April for me. Spot on at Ecuador man. Get your votes in there. 1 to 10 in the comment section of today's show. Now, if you are ready for us to start today's show, show it by liking the video. Right now, the goal was always a 50% like ratio. We are a little bit less than that right now. Actually, a lot bit less than that if we're doing math properly. Free, simple, easy. So please and thank you. Like the video for me right now. Coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, Lotto/draft room. Not specifically for the Cowboys, but definitely impact the Cowboys. An ESPN 7-round NFL mock draft. We'll break that down. A mailbag, #Cowboys or Super Chat like Chris B, which we'll get to here right now in just a moment. Trade targets as well. These are player trade targets if the Cowboys want to get aggressive and try to package some of those day 3 picks or more for a veteran player. That is the live show. First, the Super Chat from Chris B. Wide receiver at pick 12 seems to be loud. Why, I think they're going to take another offensive line or defensive end. I'd be pretty disappointed with O-line again. Took 3 last year. Yeah, but one was a 7th rounder. Does that really count? And your first rounder didn't play that great. I think that, and we'll kind of mention this at a point on today's show, there's been some buzz like, ooh, the Cowboys doing work on offensive linemen. And like kind of like the trade down is the topic around that there, which I actually think makes sense. Because if you're the Cowboys, you have 15 offensive linemen on your roster. You don't need an offensive line body. If you're taking a lineman, it has to be to start right away, which only really makes sense in the context of this class going early with a Tyler Booker or a Kelvin Banks, or if they want to go outside their normal operation, Gray Zabel, who's an FCS player, like that. That's why I think they've done work on a lot of their work this year with their 30 visits, kind of all been on the early round guys, which is a bit of a departure from some previous years and hopefully ends up being a good thing. Maybe it's the fact there's a new coaching staff in there. I don't really know, but they're kind of focusing a lot more on those early round picks than some previous seasons. Roman, what are some red flags, cons with T-Mac? Okay, we'll go with the negatives, if you will, from the scouting report. I actually don't put any real stock into the didn't like watching film as a freshman. Like, that doesn't really bother me at all. For a guy that's 6'4" and change, 219/213 in his pro day, not as physical as you would expect someone to be. The drops did increase this year. You also kind of ran into the issue, like if you did the cut up of like, the balls were not great, but they should have been caught type of issue there. He wasn't quite as dominant this year as he was last year, frankly. I thought he was just a little bit better back in 2023, despite really good production overall. He is not a burner. He does not have 4.4 speed. He does not have elite separation ability, which, again, we're on the con side. I want to just contextualize all of these. That's not a surprise. Because if you were 6'4" and 219 and you ran a 4.4 40 and you got open against everybody with like elite separation route running, then you're Julio Jones and you're going in the top 3. So like that's like he's not Julio Jones, obviously. This is much more in the T. Higgins for me, where like Higgins isn't an elite separator either, but he's got great hands for the most part. He's able to pull balls away from his frame super well. I think like that's more along the lines that Higgins was like a 4.59 at his pro day. One minor thing that I kind of want to mention, he's really only caught passes from Noah Fafita. Like, he hasn't actually caught passes from anybody else, really ever, because Fafita was his grade school quarterback and his high school quarterback. Like, they've always been connected pretty much. So, like, obviously there's some reps and moments and games, whatnot, but like that, there actually is a kind of rare, unique adjustment of like, well, this is a different ball coming from somebody else. So I don't think that really matters, but I want to like mention it in the end. I think there were times where he had some bad body language. There was frustration with the way the games were going, which he's owned up to as well. But overall, like he's my number one receiver because I don't see 6'4", 210 to almost 220. Let's call it 215. The difference between pro day and combine of like, I don't see guys who do the stuff he does after the catch and really be as fluid as he is. He's not. There is some stiffness, which is going to be expected for a guy that size, but he's not stiff, if that differentiation makes some sense. All right, thank you for the super chat there, Roman. Let's get into the live Cowboys report. Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Adam Schefter has dropped a ton of 2025 NFL draft notes earlier this morning for ESPN. I want to break down the notable ones and, in particular, how that could end up impacting the Cowboys in the 2025 draft. Before we get to that, we are 368 subs away from 212,500 subscribers here on the show. We will have live NFL draft coverage for you as well. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now. Let's get in then to the Schefter draft notes here. The first few picks, and I don't think it's locked in stone, but I do, or in pen maybe. I think it's like they're starting to etch it into the trophy, so to speak. First few picks are going to be Cam Ward's going to go number 1 overall Tennessee. It's a done deal. It's happening. Unless a team blows him away with a shocking trade-off for last second, he's a Titan. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter are going to go in the top 4. Sounds like Hunter's going to go 2. And then we'll see about where exactly Abdul Carter ends up going, because there is a chance still that Shedeur Sanders ends up the pick with the New York Giants. They've done a lot of work on him, a ton of it, even dating back to last year. He's not the favorite at number 3. I think there's just general uncertainty, as we'll get into in a little bit, like where the hell is Shedeur Sanders going to go? There is a chance he goes 3, but it sounds like it's more likely to end up being Abdul Carter in the end. Now, the first surprise could end up assuming if it's not Shedeur, then it probably goes, if Shedeur goes 3, then it's Carter 4. If Shedur's not 3, it's Carter 3, Campbell 4. The Jags could potentially be the surprise team here. Many, including myself, as Schefter points out, have mocked Mason Graham to Jacksonville, who's still the betting favorite if you value that at all, which is fine. They're a wild card, according to Schefter. And there's a couple names, including Mason Graham, that have emerged as of late. It's also the week of the draft, and everything gets a grain of salt because it's lying season. You never really know what they're going to end up doing. Ashton Jeanty is one, amid some reports that maybe the Jags are trying to get someone to trade up, looking at Chicago and Dallas. I don't think would do it, period, to get Jeanty and snipe Las Vegas. And Tetairoa McMillan, which was specifically mentioned by Schefter as a potential fit for the talented wide receiver. The Jags taking T-Mac, by the way, I think would have a significant trickle-down effect. Where does Mason Graham go? If the Raiders don't take Jeanty, are they in play for an Armand Membu? What do the Jets end up doing? If the Jags took T-Mac, I think that's a significant trickle-down impact because I don't know anybody else is going to take him. General vibe, they're a threat to an extent, but Raiders looking at Jeanty and Membu instead. Maybe even Jalen Walker, dark horse for Vegas there. The Georgia duo could very well be in play for Carolina and New Orleans. They've been linked to trench players and defense more so. That would be a negative thing for Dallas because I think they'd like to have their pick of all the wide receivers, ideally at 12. So is Tetairoa McMillan on the board at number 12? Remember, this is a Liam Cohen-led offense that loves having wide receivers, and they want to be an air-it-out team. Is T-Mac on the board at 12? Pin comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Let's go to Shedeur Sanders again here. And exactly where he goes, nobody knows. As of now, this is kind of one of the great draft mysteries as we get going into round one. There is uncertainty not only on who ends up taking Shedeur Sanders, but when they end up taking him. The Giants and Browns pass on Shedeur, they could very well move back up into the back end, mid part of round one, and take him. It doesn't sound like he's going to be a pick for the Browns at number 2 overall. The Giants, there's definitely interest, but is it at 3? Is it at 34? Is it a trade up? That's all very unclear too. The Saints allegedly like Jackson Dart a lot, which okay, go for it. Schefter says he thinks Pittsburgh is the floor. There's been some reporting that the interview didn't go well. There's been others. Where Shedeur goes, I don't know. The Cowboys should want him to go in the top 12 because that would push somebody down to them. It gives them another good player that's on the board that's going to be graded higher than where they have Shedeur. Dallas is not taking him. Don't start that nonsense. But where he goes is a pretty big question mark right now. Now, Schefter also mentioned several teams that would like to move down, and you'll notice there's a lot of them. He's got 8 teams, a quarter of the league, that wants to move down. He mentioned Denver's done some calls on working on potentially trading up. I would think running back would be their option there. Denver also likes to just know what the price tag is, so I'm not sure I'd fully buy that one as a likely trade up there, but it's Jacksonville, Carolina, San Francisco. Atlanta's light on draft picks. They'll probably go edge if they can't trade down. Seattle, Tampa, Pittsburgh has no second-round pick, but if they want to go Shedeur, they'll just take him there. Minnesota is the most obvious trade-down candidate in the NFL, maybe in history. They have 4 picks, and they have a GM that loves draft capital. They just traded up last year. I would bet you the Vikings try like hell to trade down, maybe even take less in that process. The question, though, is who wants to come up? It is not a draft, as Schefter pointed out, that is going to be a likely seller's market. I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams trying to trade up in this year's class. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get in on the sports action and best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can cash in on the basketball playoffs this year with Prize Picks. That's your last chance at your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineups for points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of so many. There's what my boy Nick Roloff put together for some basketball Prize Picks. He's got the Demon line, which is a higher Prize Picks option, but if you can hit it, you end up looking pretty good there. James Harden, more than 24.5 points. Bogdan Bogdanovic, elite name, more than 3-pointers. Giannis with the more than a lower Prize Picks slate at 26.5. Get in on the action by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's continue with Schefter's reporting. The Jets picking at 7, obviously a team before the Cowboys there. Schefter's mentioned 3 teams, or 3 players, I should say, as potential Jets targets. Armand Membu, Tyler Warren, very popular mock draft picks. Some growing buzz, the Raiders, which what Schefter also mentioned, could be in play for Armand Membu. Tyler Warren is an option there. And then he mentioned Jahdae Barron out of Texas as well, which would be a surprise at 7, but maybe could be a fallback option for them. I think if Mason Graham slides, that could also be in play for the Jets. The Saints, meanwhile, again, doesn't sound like QB's their plan. They want trenches. Several names mentioned. Offensive line, not because of Ryan Ramczyk. That was a known career was over from last year, frankly. But the trench play wasn't good anyway, so that's just kind of a need. And then he mentioned, Schefter did it, Jalen Walker and Michael Williams. I wouldn't be shocked if in some combination, Walker, Carolina, Michael to the Saints, or flip those two. That's a very real possibility in round 1. The Bears and Ashton Jeanty also stand out as a fit that the Bears would like to see happen. The report from Schefter was that other execs think the Bears are quote-unquote praying that Ashton Jeanty falls down to number 10, that they want to get him. They want to put him in the Ben Johnson offense. They've probably got him as one of the top 3 players in this class. That's me speculating, but I think it makes sense there. I think in general, if you want a Jeanty, I think those dreams died a while ago. It just, with the way the board's going to fall, the class in general, some medical stuff for guys like Will Johnson, I don't see Jeanty getting past number 10. So if you harbor hopes, the Dallas not going to trade up for him, I don't think. Don't maybe give those up. Who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round 1? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Some other notable player draft ranges from Schefter. He called Membu a top 10 lock. Feels like he goes maybe top 7 to the Raiders or Jets. Mentioned both Jahdae Barron with the Jets, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Dolphins at 13. I think the Niners at 11 could be in play there too, as earlier than mocked likely outcomes. He's got the 20s, give or take, for Emeka Egbuka, so kind of a wide range there. And he also mentioned Carson Schefter, the UCLA linebacker, as a surprise round 1 pick. Wouldn't be shocked. It's, depending on how you count Jalen Walker as like edge linebacker, it's Jahad Campbell and Schefter, and a pretty big fall off after that. It is not a class that is full of elite top-end linebacker play. I think that's going to be a troubling point for a lot of teams. It's like, how do we find the right player in this class at the off-ball linebacker spot? It's not particularly good. On my own personal board, by the way, I've got Campbell as a first, second, Schefter as a second at 33 overall. The next best one for me is Demetrius Knight at 88 overall. A massive, massive fall. And then it's like Danny Stutzman, who I like. I can find guys in the fringe top 100, but like it's a huge gap and could very well end up pushing up somebody like Schefter. I guess I have a 33, so I guess we're in the right range there anyway. Finally, some lists of names that could be traded either during or maybe a little bit after the NFL draft. Some veteran names here that probably don't make sense for the Cowboys. Kirk Cousins, but maybe he gets dealt. Tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews are on the end of their contracts. They could end up going somewhere else. 2 corners who we've discussed before. Jalen Ramsey, probably too expensive. I'm curious what ends up happening with Jair Alexander. I think there's some general uncertainty at this point around what that board ends up looking like. We'll get to some younger names here in a second. But first, did the Cowboys trade for anybody during the NFL draft? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Seahawks are begging someone to trade for Sam Howell. Cowboys obviously aren't because they already got Joe Milton. Same with Will Levis. A couple running backs who Schefter mentioned, Travis Etienne, Rachaad White. Both those teams have a younger option that kind of outplayed them in Tank Bigsby and Bucky Irving, respectively. Those guys are near the end of their contracts. They could get dealt. Couple receivers. Kayshon Boutte, I think, is going to be the odd man out in New England. George Pickens. Every receiver who leaves Pittsburgh outside of Emmanuel Sanders gets crazier when he leaves, and he's already crazy, so I kind of don't want that one. Jalen Hyatt is another name that I know sometimes have been linked to the Cowboys there. I think the Giants aren't going to find much interest there. Nobody's trading for Traylon Burks. That's a please take him off our hands mindset. I don't think the Cowboys trade for Evan Neal. If I could bet on him being a Cowboy in 2026 after he's a free agent, I would take that bet, though. Like, that would not surprise me because the Cowboys loved him coming out, but he's been bad in New York. Kayvon Thibodeau, if it ends up being Abdul Carter, and they already traded for Brian Burns, Thibodeau ends up being kind of the odd man out in New York, and they could try to flip him for an asset. Now, Tyree Wilson's been a disappointment, kind of a Dafe way too. Greg Newsome, which Browns have 3 good corners. They want to play Travis Hunter some there. You simply trade away Greg Newsome and free up some snaps that way. How many rounds of the NFL draft will you guys end up watching? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I, of course, will be live for all 7. And then we'll do undrafted free agency stuff as well, which I think is always entertaining. And I'm very curious what this year's undrafted free agency crop ends up looking like. So that's going to be, I think, a really unique situation for Dallas because they don't have the same level of just volume of roster spots. Like they are a little bit lighter on that. They don't have the same pieces from a count perspective. They've got like 3 roster spots right now. Once you factor in the 10 draft picks. So for a team that is normally very aggressive and volume signing in undrafted free agency, it might end up being a little bit smaller of an undrafted free agency class unless they end up pursuing some trades or something along those lines. So how many rounds of the NFL draft will you guys end up watching? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Paul Powell says T-Mac is just Roy Williams part 2. Don't do it. But here's the thing about Roy Williams. He was good in Detroit. He's a 1,000-yard receiver for the Detroit Lions. So, if you give me a Lions Roy Williams, I actually don't have any issues at all with that one. Just don't trade away 2 firsts for him when he's coming off an injury and a decline in production. Like that's what I would not do. But Roy Williams, the Lions guy, was actually pretty good, all things considered. Super chat menu on today's show. $5 Venmo for the Micah decision pool. $5. You pick the date Micah signs or gets traded. Closest to it wins the 50-50 split the pot. $10 for some baby name submissions. I will text my wife your baby name suggestion for Tom's second kid. And then I will read her response on air, provided she responds to me in a halfway decent time. Or read it on a future show. $20 for the Bean Boozled, $50 for the Beer Bong, and the most hundreds in April gets the DeMarvion Overshown jersey since he's now rocking number 0. We'll come back to more supers for the mailbag, but first let's talk more draft stuff. ESPN's Jordan Reid has dropped a 7-round NFL mock draft, and I wanted to break it down specifically as it relates to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll mention some of the other picks, but we'll go the 7-round Cowboys mock draft here again. Now, if you want me to do a final NFL mock draft on Wednesday, then like the video. We'll do it in years past. We'll go 7 rounds. We'll also mention some undrafted free agent targets, which have been hit a couple of those guys pretty much each year. We've done that. Sometimes they get drafted too, which that's how it goes. But if you want the final mock draft, like the video for me right now. So the round 1 picks in this Jordan Reid mock draft for the Cowboys go on the clock. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty. Very chalky on that one. Armand Membu out of Missouri. Jalen Walker. Shedeur Sanders does end up going at number 9 to the Saints, which I think is a good thing for the Cowboys. You want someone to fall down a little bit. Michael Williams off the board, both Georgia edges. Kelvin Banks at 11. which puts the Cowboys at number 12. Some names I think you should consider and keep an eye out for just in general in round one. This is not in any order. Will Johnson's got some medical stuff, which might be a red flag. Albert Breer now saying there's a knee issue, which had not been mentioned previously, so big old red flag on that one, but a name to monitor nonetheless. Matthew Golden, Tetairoa McMillan are very much in play. It's a question of who's there. I think Michael Williams is a fallback option at edge. If they want to go, they don't get a receiver. The receiver they want's gone. I think Kelvin Banks, Tyler Booker are also in play. I think in general, the dark horse surprise pick would be Dallas trades down, takes a guard. I think that would be the dark horse surprise one. When I think receiver is where they would like to go, and that's what Jordan Reid has them doing. Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. They get their pick of all the receivers in this scenario, and the pick ends up being T-Mac. Here's the pitch from Jordan Reid. The Cowboys are in desperate need of a wide receiver too, opposite CeeDee Lamb. McMillan is a changeup from any option Dak Prescott has recently had, as he's a big body target who can attack a defense on multiple levels. Over 3 seasons at Arizona, he's had 33 receptions on balls thrown 20 or more yards downfield, which led the country. He can also win underneath, as he led the FBS with 145 first downs in the same 3-year span. Dallas ranked 31st in red zone efficiency last season, which McMillan can help improve with his ability to win one-on-one matchups. I think that's a pretty good sales pitch, isn't it? Like, hey, this guy brings you what you haven't had, and from the size point, he's right. And you've got some guys that are 6'2", you don't have one that's 6'4" and change. I think McMillan does some really good yak stuff at his size, too. I would not be mad at a Matthew Golden pick, but T-Mac would be almost assuredly be my highest graded player if he's there in round one, specifically for the Cowboys at least. So who did the Cowboys end up taking with that first round pick? It's the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Notable round 2 picks, bit of a cornerback run. Maxwell Harrison to the Raiders, Savone Revel to the Saints, Donovan Jackson, 3 OSU players, by the way, to the Patriots, Travion Henderson to the Bears, which if they don't take Jeanty, makes a lot of sense there. Tyreek Williams out of Ohio State to the Jets as well. The round 2 pick from Jordan Reid was Quinshon Judkins. And this would be the new lead back for Ohio State. I think it's the draft, it's April, you never really know for certain. I think if the board fell that way and there's no Henderson, I could see the Cowboys not going running back and waiting until the 3rd round there. But Judkins is from Reid here. After passing on a running back in round 1, the Cowboys would get their game-changing rusher here. Judkins is an energetic, physical runner who is hard to bring down. He finished with over 1,000 yards and 14 TDs last season and is capable of being Dallas's RB1 right away. Judkins has 3 years of over 1,000 yards on the ground. Despite his volume going down in 2024, he split time with Sharon Henderson, still got to that 1,000-yard number. One of the closer athletic profiles for Judkins, by the way, folks, he doesn't always run quite as physical, is Marion Barber, which seems like it's worth mentioning. I have Judkins as a 2nd-round grade. He checked in at 52 on my board, so you're right there in the range of where he should probably end up going. Now, I will say, Carson Schlesinger was on the board. I don't think he's going to get there in real life, but again, we don't know for certain. If he's there in the 2nd, I don't think we should rule that one out as a possibility. Couple corners, Zaire Thomas, I think the Cowboys like. That's Wanye's brother, by the way. Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback out of Notre Dame. By the way, all 3 of those last guys checked in inside my top 50 among corners. Alfred Collins, the DT, is there, who I think I would love him in the 3rd. I don't know if he's going to get there, though. Caleb Johnson, also there at the running back spot. Now, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and maybe the last team in the DFW area that won't rip your heart out. Maybe. Get up to 60% off when you're buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. with the Game Time app. Use the all-in pricing feature. Toggle it on to show your total cost up front so there are no surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's gametime.co and use promo code CHATSPORTS. Notable third-round picks, Princely McMillan off the board, Joshua Farmer, Noel Williams, who I like a decent amount, the cornerback out of Cal, which I think would be a nice pick in the third if you could find a way to end up getting him there, which he may not last. Jack Sawyer, Caleb Johnson went 75. No running backs taken between the Cowboys pick and the pick one before them at 75. Not an outlandish scenario, but the pick here I don't love, which is Shamar Turner, the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. I have an early fourth-round grade on him. He is just outside my top 100. And the reason being, I see too much tweener to his game. The production dipped this past year from 11 TFLs and 6 sacks down to 6 TFLs and 2 sacks after A&M bulked him up, kind of moved him from edge to defensive tackle. The pressure rate got cut in more than half in the process. I think the ideal outcome is Jonathan Myers is a good player. He's under 300 pounds, so you're adding another defensive tackle who's not going to be a hog molly run stopper. If I'm taking a DT, I want it to be a nose guard. I don't think Shamar Turner is a nose guard. I don't know what his best spot is. Is it 5-tech? I don't really have a 5-tech spot on this team. That's where I get into issues specifically even and amplified more for the Cowboys. So they didn't lose much, athletic ability after adding about 30 pounds to move from edge to DT. Here's what Jordan Reid wrote. The Cowboys got disappointing production from their interior defensive line. Last season, Turner thrives at penetrating line of scrimmage and knocking offenses off schedule, which again, that sounds like a 3 technique, and I want a nose guard. We'll go rapid fire on these day 3 picks. Denzel Burke. I have a 5th-round grade on Burke among corners and overall on my board. As I double-check my notes, which I'm not wrong here. I had him at 154 overall. So you're right in the sweet spot for where I think he should go. So I'm not going to complain too much about that one. There have been moments where Denzel Burke looks awesome. And there are moments when it's bad, bad, bad. There's also, I think the shoulder is a medical red flag for teams as well. The good looks awesome. The bad doesn't look good at all. So, but it fills a need. They got to get a corner, if not multiple, this year. So, do the Cowboys need a corner in the first 3 rounds? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. A center is the pick here for the Cowboys in round 5 at pick number 174. Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State, who, again, on my board checks in as a 5th rounder. He's 162, so better value on this front. He had mostly, again, emphasis on the mostly side, fixed the snapping issues that had plagued him, right, Producer Chris, at Alabama. He's also coming off a torn Achilles, but I've heard good things about his leadership. I don't know if he's ready for year 1. Which makes he only played center. I think the value's right. I have some questions about the fit in the end. Round 6, pick number 204. I think it's kind of funny. We've done some of these multiple round mock drafts several times now. Carson Vincent has been mocked to the Cowboys, which is an off-type pick. They don't often take FCS smaller school players under the Will McClay era. He is at 215 overall for me, 6th-round grade, so this is where I think it starts to make some more sense. The athletic traits are wildly impressive. He's 6'7" and change. He's 314, 34.5-inch arms. He is built the way you want an offensive tackle to be built. He was terrible in the Senior Bowl. He was not good against Auburn. I think he's a year, if not 2 years away. But in the 6th round, you can make that guy your developmental pick. Round 6 again here. Jimmy Horn out of Colorado. This is I have him the 7th. I understand the interest there. He's 5'8" and change. He's 174. The production wasn't particularly good this year, but he offers return value. I would not be surprised if he went in this range. My issue with the fit is, he tested great straight line stuff, bad agility, kind of a red flag there overall. In the end, and the 3-cone, by the way, which came out afterwards, was a 3.72. It was not good. The overall RAS ends up being 4.49 once my guy updates the 3-cone there on the site. This is too much of like, hey, I just drafted Kevontae Turpin again, where I have a slot receiver, a gadget receiver who can only play the slot and offers return value. I kind of already have that guy in Dallas, who I just paid, by the way. Who is your day 3 sleeper you want the Dallas Cowboys to draft this year? Drop that player name or names if you want to be an overachiever for me in the comments of today's show. I love this pick in the 7th, by the way. 217 overall. Marquise Siegel out of Kansas State. I have a 5th-round grade on him. You get him at 217. That's a pretty damn good outcome. A lot of people have said him as a safety. I kind of wonder if he ends up being a nickel, which is where he played at Kansas State, by the way. But he tested great, a 4.37 40-yard dash, 38-inch vert, all those numbers. Green is good, right? He has too many missed tackles. He's not very big if you wanted to play him at safety, but he is a willing tackler. He will try. He has special teams value as well. Under 31-inch arms might be the Cowboys' biggest issue in the end. Round 7 pick 239, the East Tennessee State transfer, Chandler Martin out of Memphis. I did not do notes on him. I have 329 players. I just kind of go until I reach a good spot in like each round or each position and see where I'm at. Martin was one of the top guys. I did not do at linebacker. Dane's got him at linebacker 26, if you want to value that one at all. I get the logic here, though, even though he is undersized, as you can tell. He's under 6 foot. 229, by the way, it is at his pro day, so kind of very, very light there. But he's fast, and he goes on special teams. So that I actually get quite a bit. Joshua Simon, the tight end out of South Carolina here, which I actually don't mind this one at all. This is, I think, a bit of a sleeper tight end prospect who put up some production this past year for South Carolina. Didn't show any drop-off at all, playing up a level. I have a 6th-round grade on him. He has fixed some drop issues that plagued him earlier in his career. He wasn't really used downfield, but he has the traits to be more involved. He's got, was 247, by the way, at his pro day, which might be a little bit of a I cut weight to run faster type of deal. But in the 7th tight end, I have no complaints about that one at all. This is the ESPN Cowboys mock draft then, one time through. Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. Quinshon Judkins, the running back out of Ohio State. Shamar Turner, the defensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Denzel Burke, the cornerback out of Ohio State. Seth McLaughlin out of OSU. Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. Jimmy Horn, Marquise Siegel out of Kansas State. Chandler Martin out of Memphis. Joshua Simon, the tight end from South Carolina. So grade this ESPN mock draft. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. A, B, C, D, or F. It is a mailbag time here on the Cowboys Report. 2 ways to get on the show. You can use hashtag NFL. Skip the line altogether with a super chat. By the way, speaking of the super chat menu today, Carl Baker is into the Micah prediction pool. Got you covered there, Carl. So we are now up to $10 on the take-home side. He's got August 3rd. So right now, Carl is in prime position if the Cowboys do the Cowboys thing and wait until August to make a Micah Parsons decision. Got you entered into the tracker there on that front there, Carl. $5 Venmo at WhatGoingDowney. You can get into the Micah decision pool. $5 to enter that one. So keep it locked on that front. You can also go to chatsports.com/Micah and see all the entries that are in there so far. I have them in order in which they came in. I'm going to have to sort by date that they happened. Might need to be what I start doing in the future. But if we get more than that, we'll do that then. $10 super chat. I will text my wife your baby name ideas, and we'll see how that one plays out. $20 for the Bean Boozled, $50 for the Beer Bong, and the most hundreds in the month of April. Get the DeMarvion Overshown jersey. That is the super chat menu as we get set up for the mailbag. So a great time to get your supers in and have them answered on today's live show. Before we get into today's mailbag, help me get to 25,000 followers on Twitter, X, whatever the hell we're calling it. It'll always be Twitter to me. I'm an old man. Hit that follow button and hit up my DMs if you have questions too, because that way it's not, annoying bots and spam ads all in the DMs. So at @WhatGoingDowney on Twitter. Steven Goltz, which team has the better GM, the Cowboys or the Mavericks? So first off, the bar's here with the Cowboys. That's actually it's for here. Like, they do some good stuff. But it is Jerry. You know how hard that is to be the most hated GM/ownership group in the Dallas area? Nico sucks. And it's at the point I think he's doing it on purpose now. Because he keeps saying every time he speaks, he says something more stupid and worse than what it was previously. So for me, it's the Cowboys, and it ain't even close, which is insane. Mighty Ant0215, would you double dip at corner if we got a corner in round 2 or in 3, like in your mock draft and Mel's mocks? And thoughts on Jordan Hancock out of Ohio State to replace J. Lou at nickel? I think in general, with 7 day 3 picks that are all at 149 or later, double dipping makes sense. That's not an issue for me at all. I think that's actually a good idea. Because at that point, just take the best player on your board. You're not going to fill needs, instant starters, so just go guys you like at that point. I've got Jordan Hancock in the 5th round, 163. I think he is a good, if you miss out on guys like Upton Stout or, Jacob Parrish or other nickel options, that name does stand out to me as a possibility. This guy could be a good fit at nickel corner. And I would be down to double dip. I think you could do it at a bunch of spots. Trench play. If you go 2 linebackers on day 3, two backs, take one in the 3rd, take one in the 6th, that's all fine. Now that came in via Super Thanks, a feature here on YouTube. Allows you to donate outside of live videos. Simply click the thanks icon, edit your message, and send them whatever. We appreciate your support here on the Cowboys Report. Anytime you do a Super Thanks, we will give you a shout out. If you do it during the draft, it'll be on our next live show afterwards. OH6 Gaming. Hey, Tom. Love the show. Just wondering, what if the Cowboys don't trade down the 1st, stick and pick wide receiver? What would it take with other day 3 picks to trade up in the 4th? Thanks. You could package your 5s and move up. But if you're trying to keep that early 5th round pick, it gets a little bit challenging. You can get back into the 4th round. I am curious how teams in general view this draft class. Do they like it on day 3? Do they want extra draft picks? Can you trade down in the 2nd or 3rd and get a 4th round pick back too? No round 1 trade makes it a bit tricky to get easy pick assets because that's the more valuable ones. You can package some day 3 picks. I just want to hope it's you can't trade all your 6 and all your 7s to go get a 4. Nobody wants that. That's not going to be beneficial. Even if it works on the trade chart, it's not how NFL teams actually operate. So what will the Cowboys do in round 1? N for no trade, U for they'll trade up, D for they trade down. Get those predictions in at the pinned comment of today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Jenkins Gaming. What's the trade value if we move down to number 19? So I'm using the updated trade value chart on this one here. So it's not as expensive to trade up as it is on some of the older models that don't quite get utilized as much in most cases. The rough trade value there is a very, very early 3rd. Now, maybe a team just says, maybe the Cowboys take less. That's not how they tend to operate, though. Maybe a team overpays, like you had happen last year when the Lions overpaid on both trade charts, frankly, to move up. But early 3rd value is kind of what you're staring down there, which at that point, specifically with Tampa at pick number 19, they could package 84 and they're 4th. This is, again, on the trade value chart, and it works out pretty closely to get a 3 and a 4. I don't know if either team would do that, but that's about the rough value. From Jace, who would be the safest and riskiest wide receiver to take in round 1? So I'm going to treat this as safest and riskiest relative to the bust potential of, like, what if these guys are just bad? I think the safest is Emeka Egbuka. I don't think his ceiling is as high. I think he's just going to be a quality wide receiver, too, who, is going to be like a Bobby Trees type for you. How much you value that, I think is a fair question. But I see fewer potential debilitating flaws in Ibuka's game. I just don't know if there's like an elite, truly dominant trait that you covet as a potential wide receiver 1. I think the riskiest then, probably either Golden or Burden. I think there are flaws with both guys. I think Burden in some of the yak-heavy stuff is not a quality profile. I think that was an offensive issue more than anything else at Missouri. But I think that's a valid concern over him of, like, is he a gadgety guy? Can he do a full route tree, or do you have to scheme for him? Because if you have the right coach and you can scheme for him, unlimited potential. Look at how Debo was. Not saying the same guys, but Rashee Rice had the same concerns for me, where he was a 4 dot guy, but he cooked once he got the ball in his hands. And I think Golden's production is statistically some of the lightest you'd have in round 1. Now, with that said, I have both Golden and Burden over Emeka Egbuka because I think the upside and the potential is so much greater. Both Golden and Burden are top 20 players for me in this class. So with the way the class shakes out, and once you start like cutting off, like, well, this guy's not a need for us, this guy's not a need for us, assuming they don't take Burden, I'm probably higher him than most, then he gets to like top 5 guys on the board at 12. Golden's a no-brainer in that conversation for me. So, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs, or you could do season-long football or baseball is available too. But it's your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to the Prize Picks lineup. With its points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less. Shows up to 2,000 times your cash today. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. One of our NFL season-long Prize Picks slates. I got less than across the board. Goff, Kelsey, Daniels, because Lions offense probably won't be as good. Kelsey won't be as involved. Daniels might not be asked to run as much this upcoming season. So go download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. LSU Tigers, who could be this year's Mozzie Smith pick? I asked this before. Look, by definition, isn't it Kenneth Grant? A Michigan defensive tackle who's very traitsy, but the production hasn't matched up yet. I think that's the analogy there. The Mozzie pick was like filling a lesser priority need position with a not first-round grade, so I surprised Jahad Campbell, but I actually like Campbell a lot. It's like I think it kind of is Kenneth Grant. I don't think guard would fit in that category. There's not a lot that I think would really shock me, unless they trade down, in which case kind of the entire board changes. Godin Gaines, would you double dip at running back like Henderson and Taj Brooks since our running backs suck? I would be down with that. Henderson's your explosive back, Brooks is more your power back. I think like going opposites, third down pass catcher, explosive back, and early down power back, that makes sense. I think they could survive if they didn't with what they have, but I would not be mad at a double dip at all, especially with how deep this draft class is. Carter, why do media people keep trying to trade Dak? Simple. They don't know what they're talking about. There's a reason why, as much like uncertainty with, hey, where the hell is Shedeur Sanders going to go? No one actually links him to the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody. And the reason is because there's zero actual valid football reason for why it would happen. There's zero actual valid football reason right now with why the Cowboys are trading away Dak Prescott. They're not eating $100+ million to not have the quarterback on their roster when they just hired the head coach who they think is right guy because of the quarterback. Like, you don't hire the quarterback's OC and go, okay, now we're going to trade the QB. It doesn't make any football sense. None. The only sense is like clickbait and Jerry does weird thing, which Jerry doesn't make decisions as much anymore. So that's my mindset. What is your confidence level in Dak Prescott? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Jariah Jones, today's Jack Sawyer. He gets high on you, and the space he invades, he gets by on you. What a pull! Great song, too. Is that Smashing Pumpkins? Is that right? I think it's Smashing Pumpkins. Now I have to Google this on the fly here. But that is a fantastic song. Rush. It's Rush. Damn it. I think it was the other one. Anyway, good pull there, Jerry. Go take your pills. Brendan, interested in trading for a veteran back. If you don't go running back early, yeah. Like, if you don't get one in round 1, round 2, that probably means a lot of other backs went in round 1 and round 2 and round 3. And those teams probably now have a player that they don't need as much anymore. And that's where I would shop for a veteran running back in a trade. Absolutely. I think there's a good chance they get one at least by the 3rd, though. Tyler, how would you feel if Dallas traded down multiple times mid to late first to get Burden? You missed on McMillan and Golden, but Burden has traits like Debo, Jamar with size, speed, and yak. Probably wouldn't put him in the Jamar Chase convo, but look, I know I'm different on this one, and I'm not going to ding the Cowboys or anyone else for not feeling the same way. I like Burden a lot. I loved him in 2023. This year was not as good. I think this is also a class in general where a lot of the top players, some of their best stuff was in 2023. I think Burden is in that category. I think his quarterback was terrible. I think the offense knew his QB was bad, and they went, let's just get him the ball in space and see what happens. I think that was like the mindset there. So I get more picks. I would probably try to trade away some of my day 3 picks in the process. But if the Cowboys took Burden, even at 12, I would not be mad at it. I might be alone on that, but I would not be upset with it. We'll have more Dallas Cowboys coverage for you, not just during the draft and after, but from now until I can no longer do this. Hit that sub button at youtube.com/@CowboysTV. And if the Cowboys don't take a back in round 1 or 2, just take Alfred Collins in the 2nd or 1 back. So I think he means Collins in the 3rd. I would be strongly tempted by Collins in the 3rd. That's just on my board with where I have him. He is at 2nd, 3rd round grade, top 65. I've only got the big 4 backs: Jeanty, Hampton, Henderson, big 5. Jeanty, Hampton, Henderson, Johnson, Judkins over him. So BPA would be Collins, but I would like to get a running back. The way I'd feel better is I'm going to trade a future pick for a 4th and take one. Or trade up to go get a 4th. Like that's how I justify it. Daniel, I still think that Tet will be there at 12, but I wouldn't mind Golden either. I just want an X receiver since speed is not just good enough to win the big dance. I think in general, you need, with what you have on this roster, you need someone who is good at something. I need someone who is a good, actual big body wide receiver. I don't have that right now. I need someone who is good after the catch. I don't have that right now beyond CeeDee Lamb. I need someone who is a good vertical threat with speed. I don't have that right now. Again, Lamb can do it. Turpin is more of a short area speed guy. Any of those 3 things work. That's why I like Golden, because he's got speed and is a great route runner. McMillan offers size and has had great production downfield too. That's why I'm not opposed to Burden, because he does a lot of fun yak stuff. But I would not be mad at Golden. I would prefer T-Mac. I think maybe that decision gets made for you in the end. Nick Morissette, I am team trade down. That said, I am more comfortable going with Mingo and Tolbert at 2 than Williams as my number 1 back. Trade down and get Hampton or Hendo. So my counter to this is, I don't disagree actually. Yeah, I think running back. It's a half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. I can get a starting back in the second, in the third. I don't know if I can actually get one of those guys at receiver in the second and third. That's why I'm a little bit more focused on the wide receivers. Like I've got McMillan, Burden, Golden, Ibuka all in my top 30 players this year. I don't have anybody else in my top 50. And then I got kind of a glut at 54 to 74 with some second, early third round grades. But I don't know if those guys are instant twos the way I want them to be. The running backs, meanwhile, they stretch. I've got 10 guys in my top 100. And I've got another 14, 15 guys that I think could be an RB1 for you, with just the depth of this class. Trevor, how about a George Pickens trade? I don't want that in Dallas. Pickens is funny. He's a hilarious football player, but he just does something crazy dumb like every other game. I don't want to go down that path. Pittsburgh got DK Metcalf. Now they want Pickens gone. That's kind of the buzz out there. When was the last time a receiver Pittsburgh didn't want anymore was actually consistently good elsewhere? Kind of like Emmanuel Sanders. I don't want to go down that path. Name a player who you want to trade for. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Also, positions. What position do you want the Cowboys to draft in round one? I think my board, by the way, I'll read this off here. Guys that'll maybe actually be there for you. Hunter's going to be gone. Carter's going to be gone. Jeanty, Graham, Campbell will be gone. I could see Tyler Warren being there. I don't know if they take a tight end. I don't think Membu's there. McMillan, Will Johnson could end up being there. I like Jahdae Barron a lot. I like Mike Green. I like Luther Burden. Jalen Walker I don't think ends up being there. And then it's you want to go Jihad Campbell? Guys the Cowboys could use Kenneth or Marion Hampton, Matthew Golden, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, all kind of in a stack in a row for me. All kind of there together in that early second round range. But, I think they'd go receiver because it just fits a little bit better. From Munoz, let me make sure I didn't miss it's just a dollar search. I want to make sure I didn't miss a comment from him that would have been included separately. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. He says, this is a separate comment. I'd move down, pick up a second round pick and a running back and a safety and then a cornerback. I need a receiver, though. I am a sucker for safeties. You guys who have watched the show for a long time know that I like safeties. I like having that as an option. I think it'd be really cool if they took one. I've got on my board, I've got Starks at 17, Emin Wari at 27, Xavier Watts at 34, Kevin Winston, Makuba, all in the top 64, Billy Bowman top 100, Jonas Sinker outside of it. I'd love to get those guys. It's not their MO in the end. Nick Morissette, if you and I want to trade down, does Schefter there help us? Pitt moves up, or does one of the O-linemen intrigue someone enough to move up? I don't think, regardless of the hypothetical scenario of Schefter is there and somebody wants him, is valuable to you because you're getting the quarterback tax. Here's the thing. If Schefter is there, who wants him? Does Pittsburgh want him? Because if Pittsburgh wants him then, why can't they just wait? Because the Dolphins aren't going to take him. The Colts aren't. The Falcons aren't. The Cardinals aren't. The Bengals aren't. The Seahawks aren't. The Bucs aren't. Denver's not. A team could trade up in front of Pittsburgh, but you don't need to trade up 9 spots to secure your quarterback if you don't think anyone else is going to take him, when the other teams that have been linked, the Browns, the Giants, the Saints, if they wanted him, they could have taken him. So I think if you actually want to trade down, you are better off having Schefter go, maybe having Jackson Dart go too, which I think is unlikely right now. And you just sit and chill and have a really good player fall to you. Maybe a Mason Graham falls to you. Maybe one of those offense linemen, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, somehow fall to you. I think in general, though, everyone in this class wants to trade down because it's just not that same caliber of class. The guy you get at 12 this year is not going to be the same caliber of guy you would have been able to get last year. It's just it's a different caliber of class. I'm looking back at my board last year. I had 18 true first-round grades, 25 if you include the first and second-round cheaters. This year, I've got 12 first-round grades, 18 if you count the first and second-round cheaters. Like, my best available players at 12 were like, the quarterbacks went early, and I had 3 first-round grades on QBs. I have none this year. I had 3 receivers in my top 5. All of them would have been home run picks at 12, but they probably have been top 8 picks this year. It's just the board doesn't flow the same way it did last year. I had 6 guys in my top 100 last year among QBs, and I was not very high on Spencer Rattler and everything else. I've got 2 in my top 100 this year, and that's not high on Dart Miller. It's just the caliber of class just doesn't lend itself, I think, to a lot of trade-ups. The Super Chat menu on today's show is as follows. $5 for the Venmo 50-50 raffle with Falcons signed Easton Stick. Excuse me. $5 Venmo for the Micah decision pool. At what going down here for that one. $10 for baby name submissions. I'll text my wife your name submission, and then we'll let her, and then I'll read her response out on air. $20 Bean Boozled, $50 Beer Bong, and the most hundreds in the month of April gets you the DeMarvion Overshone jersey. That is the Super Chat menu on today's show. Can let me know in the comments section of today's video. Get the Super Chats in there. I'm trying to read some updates here. Chris B says the Cowboys are enamored with Josh Simmons, Nick Harris. I'll have to read the report. I do trust Nick a lot. I still think, and this is kind of something that Nick's mentioned too, receiver certainly appears to be the most likely outcome. And I think the order would probably be McMillan, Golden, Abuka, Burton is how I think that list would go. I know they've done work on Josh Simmons. I am skimming his article now. He's, from what, I'll have to go back and, this was a video clip from Simmons. I know he mentioned him as like he mentioned he's enamored, but he also has Banks and Johnson and Michael and Stewart in front of them. I think there is an interesting scenario of if the medical stuff for Simmons does not check out, which I think is a concern for teams. I've heard conflicting reports on that. That could also be a Blue Star special in round 2. Cowboys get one of their highest graded guys in the second. I don't think he's going to fall that far. But he also mentioned in one of his tweets, like, the lists he put them in were mostly in order, and Simmons was 5. So I don't think that's going to be likely there. Salanan, thoughts on Kyle Monangai from Rutgers? Great value in the 5th or 4th, letting us get more valuable positions elsewhere. I am not as high on Monangai as apparently you are here. Look, I like him. I think he is a good power back. I have an early 6th on him. I think if he gets a chance to be the lead back in a committee as the power runner, he can absolutely produce and be impressive in that area. But I see early down only. I don't see good pass catching value. I don't see the explosive play stuff that I'm hoping for. I don't think he's a plotter, but I think he's more of a battering ram back, and I think the Cowboys would rather have someone who can help them more on third downs in the passing game. I think he's a good pass protector, but I think he's just I think he's going to be 4 yards and a cloud of dust guy in the NFL, and I don't love that. Fans of many topics. Mel said Hampton at 12. Yeah, and then in his last mock draft, when he did the back-to-back with Phil Yates, he also took Matthew Golden. It's like I honestly do not freak out so much over mock drafts is my main feedback. They're mock drafts. They're valuable. They're fun. But they are not always accurate. Like, if you get 10 picks right, you did a great job with the mock draft. So a third of them are wrong. 2/3 of them are wrong. #math. Like, Mel said Hampton at 12 and then did Golden at his last 12. Like, Mel is kind of living on the high of getting the Tyler Smith pick right, which was the wrong logic because he thought Smith was a right tackle, which was not where the Cowboys were ever going to play him. They didn't even look at him as a right tackle in that class. Like, that's not – that's cool. And McShay thinks McMillan, and, beat writers think this. They're all valuable data points, but don't say outside like tackle picks, like, boom, that's the pick. It gets very messy in the end. All right, Drew DTX. I think has bigger upside, Henderson or Judkins? For me, Henderson. I think there's more explosive playability. I think that it gives you better upside. Not that Judkins doesn't have upside, but I think Henderson gives you more big plays, and that's what I kind of covet there. Let's assume we go Javonte as the other back. In that scenario, Judkins is your earlier round back, can fit, but I think you just take the better back. Like, I don't when I'm getting like round 1, round 2, I'm looking for impact guys, starters for me, I don't want to go with, let's take the worst player, the lower graded player, but he fits better. Fit matters, but I don't want to go down that path. I don't think that's a good decision of like, we had a first round grade on this guy and a second round grade on somebody else. But I don't want to, I think that gets dicey in the end. And then my pick name this time is the coldest. Well, my wife just texted me too. The coldest ever to a Crawford, back in the portal again. Name. I know what she's gonna say in response. That's not your son, is the response I'm gonna get on that one. Can we get a Go Stars? Go Stars, please don't blow it this time. They did not. They're on the edge. They gotta find a way to be a little bit. I don't know. Play the team I think they can be in the end. But I hope the Stars come out. That'd be nice to have more team success in DFW. Maybe we can kind of trickle through to everything else in the end. Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Some blockbuster trade targets for the Cowboys. So they've got 77 players right now on the roster. They've got 10 draft picks. That leaves 3 open roster spots. So I could very well see this team making cuts or wheeling and dealing again. They've been wheeling and dealing so far this offseason. They've been trading players, 4 players, Kyer Elam. Maybe they could package some day 3 picks and try to get a starter at a spot they cannot fill with one of their first 3 picks in this year's draft. Before we get into it, 10 names plus one I cheated on. Name a player you want to trade for. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's begin with Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback. The Dolphins looking to find a destination for Ramsey. They're going to work together. That probably means the trade value is not as high as it will or should be. The money is the big issue here for the Cowboys. The cap hit's not that bad, $9.82 million. The new team cash, however, is $21.1 million. Which is more than what they would normally like to trade a team. New money cures all ills there. But it'd be a splashy move where the Cowboys haven't made a splashy move in a long time. Another corner, Jair Alexander, the Packers corner, who we've mentioned before. Both of the guys we've mentioned on the show in the past. The contract here is also an issue. $17.5 million in cash in 2025. The post-June 1st trade could be in play for Alexander. I was surprised they didn't just cut him. I kind of thought that could be an option for Green Bay. They are keeping him. I think they want to find, if they're going to move on from him, get assets back. That relationship, frankly, wasn't good last year. There's been some issues, including but not limited to Alexander deciding to go out for the coin toss when he wasn't a captain that day and then almost ruining it by picking the wrong thing from what they wanted, which is a red flag for me just if you're trading for him. But his inside-outside flexibility, much like Ramsey, does fit super well as a potential option if the Cowboys could make the money work. So during the draft, or like in the days afterwards, will the Cowboys make a trade for a player? Y for yes, N for no. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. George Pickens, the wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers go out and make the trade for DK Metcalf, and then it leaves Pickens as the number 2, which is probably better for him, but it is telling that he's been linked as a potential trade target Schefter mentioning all three of these guys in his Monday article. He's pretty cheap, though. 2025 cap hit is a little over $4 million for Pittsburgh. They'd save $3.66, which is what the Cowboys would owe if they traded for Pickens. Almost at 1,000 yards last year. My issue is not the talent or the fit. He works as a big body ex-receiver. It's the headspace stuff. Is he just going to throw tantrums and not do his job on the field and throw a fit and just be a headache and a borderline cancer? That is what I worry about there with Pickens. Because historically speaking, if you are a Steelers wide receiver and you leave and you're kind of a crazy person already, it doesn't get better when you go to your new team. Tyreek Hill, also on this list. Now, the Dolphins said, we're not going to trade Tyreek Hill. If you give us two ones, we'll consider it. Wonder if that was posturing. Hill's made a point about wanting to try to get outside the organization. The Dolphins don't save much money. I think they're kind of in a weird spot with Tyreek Hill more than anything else. I also think it's kind of there's always going to be that off-the-field stuff that's always going to linger with Tyreek Hill. And frankly, the whole, doing videos of reactions if you got traded and piecing out on social media, I don't know if I want to deal with that. Receivers are always going to be divas in the end, but, there's a level to it, and we're getting to the point where it might not be worth it for Tyreek Hill. Today's show is made possible by Mando. Spring is in the air, which means I get to golf again. I love to walk, not ride, 18 holes, and Mando whole body deodorant helps keep me fresh from head to toe because golf balls aren't the only ones that need to be clean after all. And Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. The Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping because who wants to pay for shipping in 2025? As a special offer for you guys, you get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That's over 40% off your starter pack when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you in the process. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. The link, shopmando.com, and the promo code CHAT, C-H-A-T, will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Kayvon Thibodeaux is next up here. This is a player the Cowboys were very high on the year he came out. He and Evan Neal were super high up on their board. The scenario here, which is kind of what Schefter alluded to too in his Monday article. Giants take Abdul Carter. They already paid Brian Burns. Now he's on the outside looking in. I think the cost might be a little bit more expensive from a draft trade perspective. The 5th-year option is also due to be picked up or declined for Thibodeaux. New team would owe a little under $5 million this year, but $14.75 if they picked up the option in 2026. But if you're looking for more of the blockbuster name mindset, Thibodeaux as a former top 10 pick would fit that mold. Let's talk some running backs here. And again, this is what if team does this in the draft scenario? And maybe the running backs don't count for blockbuster, but still. DeAndre Swift. Bears heavily linked to Ashton Jeanty. You don't need DeAndre if you spend a top 10 pick on a running back. Bears would save $6.6 million if they traded him of the $9.33 million cap charge. New team would owe $8 million for 1 year, $7.5 in year 2026 with no dead money out left on the contract. He had less than 1,000 yards last season. Thought he was better with the Eagles, which is how it tends to go with that offensive line. There are moments of frustrating vision from DeAndre Swift, but he's better than what the Cowboys have for now at in the backfield. Now, if the Cowboys make any moves, draft or otherwise, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. That's youtube.com/CowboysTV. More free Cowboys YouTube videos. Rashad White, also a mention on the Schefter trade candidates, part of his draft notes piece there. Bucky Irving has emerged as the number 1 back. The Bucs could trade White. They would save almost all of his $3.63 million cap hit. The Cowboys in this case would owe 3.41. That's not a lot of money. That's not that different than what they're in line to pay Javonte Williams. And Rachaad White has done some third down back stuff. He had 600-plus yards last season. I think he is, again, better than what they have, but also probably in the mold of, I think I'd rather draft somebody in the third round because I get him for 4 years then and not just the one. Travis Etienne, again, common theme here. These guys, if these teams draft a back on day 2, they have another young option that's better. And Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville and Bucky Irving in Tampa. Etienne is in his 5th-year option year right now. $6.14 million, which is fully guaranteed. When healthy, Etienne's been really good. He hasn't been consistently healthy. That's why his numbers fell off so much in 2024. That's not great production, but he is explosive, he's fast, and is a former first-round pick, which the Cowboys have loved acquiring this offseason. How would you address that running back spot right now? D for the draft, T for trade, F for free agency. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Next up is Greg Newsome, the cornerback from the Cleveland Browns. This is kind of like, well, they have Martin Emerson, they have Denzel Ward. If they take Travis Hunter, are they going to look to pay Newsome too and pay Denzel Ward, have 2 big corner contracts, plus Emerson's got to get paid, and you want to let Hunter at least minor on defense? Maybe you just get a good asset back for a really good young corner in Greg Newsome. Money is the big issue here. $13.38 million contract is fully guaranteed. It's a lot for the Cowboys to pay. Was a former first-round pick. We spent time all those years ago on him as, hey, what could he be an option for Dallas in round 1? I think he was a popular trade-down target for us. I think we did a mock draft. We traded on took Greg Newsome even. So there is, I think, the potential interest in him. 10th, but I got a cheater to come up here in a second. This is not a blockbuster option. But I think it is okay, this actually makes a lot of sense. That's Andrew Billings. The Bears spent a second-round pick last year on Javon Dexter, a third-round pick on Zach Pickens. They signed Grady Jarrett. There is a chance they draft a defensive tackle early this year. That could make Billings, who has ties to the Cowboys with Matt Eberflus, a logical trade target. That's what I would do. You fill your other nose guard need by paying $2.5 million for Andrew Billings. The production is not eye-popping. That's okay. You're not asking your nose guard to be an eye-popping production player. It's not blockbuster. We'll get to the bonus target. That is a blockbuster. That stands out to me. Then there's Jameson Williams. And this one has kind of picked up some buzz in recent days. I'm not sure I buy it unless the Lions decide to draft a receiver in round 1. Even then, I'm not sure I buy it because right now it's Tim Patrick and Khalif Raymond as the next options up at wide receiver. I think there is some might decline the 5th-year option buzz for Jameson Williams, which always makes things interesting long-term, big picture-wise. But a 1,000-yard receiver gives the Cowboys vertical threat speed. If he's available, yes, I would call. I don't know if he is in the end. Prediction time at the pin poll. Is Tetairoa McMillan on the board at number 12? Y for yes, N for no. Let's see if the wife has responded to the Dakota's name suggestion. One-word response is the stupidest. That's pretty fucking funny. I like that one. That's good. Is T-Mac on the board at 12? Y for yes, N for no. Chris B, are the Jameson Williams trade rumors true? Again, I don't know if I buy it. This is also the time of year where there's a lot of stuff that gets out there, and that's even sometimes Lions listen to a trade pitch from somebody, but they said no, and that then was Lions had trade talks and they're open. It's just kind of the game of telephone gets a little crazy sometimes. If he's available, yeah, I'd call. He's a first-round pick. He's a burner at wide receiver. You don't have that. You don't have that guy on your team right now. I don't know if I buy it in the end. We will be live for the 2025 NFL Draft. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button at youtube.com/CowboysTV. We will have free videos every single day. Final mock draft on Wednesday. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now.